Hello, folks. Duncan at Free as an Eagle. Just another quick hi as I move along with the project. Got a fairly good day in today. Not too long ago, we got all this sheetrock up in this cathedral area in the Aframe, and the last few days I've actually cheated a little bit. I skied a couple of times recently and may go tomorrow, else the season is still functional. It's getting pretty sparse out there, but it's not over yet, so taking a little time off to relax and enjoy the outdoors, and then we'll get into hiking season. But anyway, today was productive. I had gone up and done a fair amount of taping a few days ago, and then today I was determined to get the rest of this whole thing with the first coat on it, so I can cycle it through. Ideally, you do 3 coats, after which you can sand and then paint and not have too many areas you got to touch up. So the first coat is the hardest, takes the longest. I'll temporarily focus on this little corner because corners are a little tricky. But the trick is the first time around you'd kind of dab the dots, and then joint compound shrinks. And as you can see by some of these dimples here, it's a product that's easy to sand, but it's pretty good as long as it never gets wet. After that, it can get dissolved if it gets wet, but once it's painted, it's pretty durable. So the first coat, you dab all these little dots. That's not too difficult. You want to mash down on the taping knife, because anything you put on that's more than you really need, you end up having to sand off later. And as I found out by painful experience when I was younger, that can create a massive amount more work than you really need to do. So the trick is to mash down on the knife, put in what will just go in when it's mashed flush, the knife drawn across it, and do that 3 times. And the third coat, by the time you get to that, you're not adding very much. It doesn't shrink very much, and the resulting little depressions in it are pretty much invisible. And when you're bedding tape, you lay a layer of mud on the joints, and this is a corner. It's actually got a vertical, a horizontal joint in the corner. So ideally, I tend to do the straight ones first, and then you can overlap the tape when you do a corner and run it a long length of it. So you fold the tape ahead of time so it goes in the corner easier. And then I have a corner tool I misplaced. So the trick I learned from a guy was to bed that corner tape and then just, he likes to do it one side at a time. I don't like building an extra layers of work if I can avoid it. So I'll bed it and carefully set one side and then try to do the other side without messing it up too much. I get a wrinkle here or there, but I tend to get away with it in general. And then, of course, once that tape is bedded, you let it dry, then you lay 2 to 3 more coats over that, and with the result that when you sand it out, it's pretty smooth. And again, you got to bed it carefully. You sort of flare out areas like these, the joints that are not on a factory or a rolled edge that's deliberately made thinner. You have to be more careful because you're butting 2 full thickness pieces together, and anything you do is going to stick out a tiny bit. So you got to be kind of careful with those. I've taped all these. So I can kind of show you over here in this dormer. Like that's an area up there. There's a factory edges are rolled, and they're a little thinner than the rest of the sheet of sheetrock, and the rolled edges make it so when they butt together, you have a little room for bedding tape without having it stick out. And again, the other joints are kind of just do them and live with the consequences and try to feather it out so they look good. So these ones are, everything's one coated in here that I've done so far. And we're going to add more coats. Now it's actually hot in here. I had the wood stove going, and it's almost uncomfortable. So I'm glad I'm done for the day. It's about 4 o'clock, and we will be wrapping up, coming back another day, and then I'll show you a couple other small things. Look, this is a sheetrock corner on the bathroom wall where it comes to an actual corner. Most of this place I'm doing wood trim, but here and there's going to be the metal corners. So I've got to get the metal corner bead, and it actually wraps around the corner and allows you to tape it in such a way you see a nice clean corner. And some of these areas I'm going to trim, like around this area, because it's all wood, there'll be wood trim surrounding it. And then the same thing with the small dormer. It looks a little ragged right now. That's fine. We're going to have corner trim kind of coming up the side and up the side of the wood. So that will pretty that right up. And then I've got a lot of leftover siding. I overordered on log siding, and then I came to this wonderful realization that will become the top little ridge pieces. I'll bevel that off so I can sit upside down up in there and the color is pleasing. And then the same thing up in here. And then I've got to stuff a bunch of insulation. I did the insulation up on that end and stuffed that in to prevent moisture and air from going up into that roof area. It's not vented, therefore I don't want moisture getting up there. And I think I included this in the last video, but I came up with a scheme to ventilate since I don't have any internal ventilation in here. So I have these air tubes that are going to have screening on the outside. I got them fitted in there, and then I'll wood trim over them and put these little vent covers that make them kind of hide there. But they're going to allow the house to breathe by letting a steady flow, small amount of air just kind of rise up, and the hottest, moistest air will just sort of disappear. And that's my method of letting the house breathe a little bit, just to deliberately dump some of the air that we can afford to let go. Otherwise, the place is well insulated, it can afford to bleed off a little bit of air. But anyway, yeah, so the trick with this taping today, the challenge actually was, how do I get to all these areas? There are areas that are hard to get to. The upper ladder here allowed me to get quite a bit of the upper area. Then I realized I could move this other ladder by creating little platforms for the legs. So I jerry-rigged that so I could get to these areas that were inaccessible and to the skylight. And then to get to these other wall areas, the stovepipe was a little tricky, but I realized I could add a board to the staging that would allow me to attach a cleat and lean the ladder out on the cleat. So this is all a little bit of exercising physics. I'm not going to check with OSHA about any of this, but I'm in Vermont. So the name of the game is to be careful, double check everything. And I always at the bottom of ladders, any remote chance of it kicking out, I just screw down a cleat where that traps the ladder so it's leaning into the wall, and it's against a cleat that's on staging that's pretty much immobile. It's tied into the wall over on the other side. So all of this jerry-rigging is done very carefully, and with regard to the fact I got expensive windows over there, I don't want to have anything happen to. So knock on wood, so far we've been fortunate, and a close call here or there, but you try to be as careful as you can, hope for the best, and with a little bit of luck, you can get away with a fair amount of these kind of projects. This one won't be so bad. This whole upper floor I can access with this orange ladder, so I'm not too nervous about what's left here. Getting the sheetrock up was the scary part, and now that that's done, I just got to stay careful and keep taping until all this is ready to sand out, and then that will be another little chore, and that can be pretty laborious, so I'm trying to do my very best to minimize the amount of joint compound I'm using so the sanding will be minimized. Once that's done, there'll be a whole lot of painting. So this project goes on, and once all that's done, then we can trim out around the windows and doors and install doors and a whole bunch of things. So this is a very long-term ongoing project, and it's going well. It's coming out nicely, but it's definitely an exercise in delayed gratification. I mean, it's satisfying to do individual elements and get them done, but you string together all the things required to build a house, and it's actually a very big project. So I'm looking forward to the day we can move in, but every day I can, I'm up here working, and I'm hoping by June to be substantially done. I'm realizing that's probably being optimistic, but one must remain optimistic and set goals and have a reason to get up in the morning and push forward. So this is been a busy winter. It'll be a busy spring and probably a busy summer. And when the weather gets good, I'm going to want to get out hiking and doing other things. So I've pushed hard all winter to try to move ahead with this. So there will be time for other things. But anyway, that's a catch up. Hope you're doing well. Spring is here. Things are warming up. So it's only going to get warmer. The days will get longer. The sun's going to be out more. So it's all good. Well, we'll talk to you again when there's something to report. Have a good night.